Welcome everyone to the Walk with Faith podcast with Molly Faith and special guest, my dear friend, Michael Kopf. I am so happy we're in person. First time ever doing this for both of us, actually.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Yeah, thanks for driving here. How long did it take you to get here?
Without stopping for the store to tank up, it would have been 2 hours and 40 minutes.
It's not too bad.
No.
For Texas.
I know.
Which everything takes forever.
It does, and I'm not going to say what I was doing on the roads to make that happen.
What were you doing, Michael? You're not going to say?
Like 80 and a 70.
Oh.
Speeding a little.
Oh my gosh.
Keeping up with traffic.
I'm glad that you were being watched over while you got here. So.
Yeah, we'll edit that part out. I don't need a video confession of speeding on a road.
Okay. Clap. All right, that's where we edit. Okay. So Michael, before we got started, you wanted to discuss an experience that you had. There are different parts to this experience, and it was pretty interesting. Something about when you were in France, right?
So it concluded in France, but it actually started... So it started in Hawaii, but to preface what brought about this, the catalyst was I was at a performing arts center where my job was to make sure people who entered the door were going through the right door and they didn't go backstage. Well, somehow on the terrazzo flooring, I missed a few steps and landed on my left leg, shattered a bone. Didn't realize that I had done that and tried to walk on it 4 times, thinking I just pulled a muscle.
Oh my gosh.
So I was ghostly white on the floor when the house manager found me, and so I was taken to the hospital, surgery to put my leg, the bones back together, and he was really cool orthopedic, and the last words I heard before going into surgery were, "I hope I can save the leg." And the words that I heard coming out of the anesthesia and everything was, so there's 2 metal plates and I think it was 9 or 12 screws in the leg, and everything was put back perfect. All I had to do was cut 1 nerve. So I always had a numb spot in my leg from that, but I then had to go into physical therapy. Well, what was driving the physical therapy was I had a trip to go on a cruise to Hawaii in a few months, and I was like, I'm not letting this keep me from doing that. So I pushed the physical therapy to get it done, and I actually got cleared the week before we were supposed to depart for the cruise. So I was like, cool. So we get to the airport, and you would think being on crutches, the airport would be your friend. Not so much. I still had to work my way through the lines.
Wow. So they didn't give you, they didn't put you in a wheelchair and put you through the disability? Really?
Well, I don't think we asked for the wheelchair, but we figured they would let us go through, but nope, we weaved through. And this is the fun part of the story for me is I have in my hand the card that the surgeon gives you so that the airport will let you pass with having metal in your body. Well, according to the metal detector, I had no metal in my body. The person in front of me or the person behind me showed metal. And so it was transferring the metal image to somebody else. So sometimes it would be my mom, and sometimes it would be whoever unfortunately was behind me would get patted down, and one did because they were having metal, but I didn't. That we could never explain why I never showed up having no metal in my leg. But our flight is delayed, so we get to San Diego to board the ship, and the cruise personnel are like, "Where's your bags? We gotta hurry up because we're really gonna be cutting it close to get on the ship." And we were like, "So if you cruise, you have a certain time to when you leave. Otherwise, if you miss it, you have to wait until everybody else goes through their rotation and you can go out." And so it puts everything behind schedule. Well, we get to the terminal and the cruise staff are like, "Okay." So they give us our key cards and we get swiped and we board the ship. And we're able to take off on time. So I'm using crutches along on the ship to go eat or go to different events on the ship. And we get to Maui, which is close to the end of the trip.
I love Maui.
And I'm going on a snuba excursion, which is you get the mouthpiece of scuba with snorkel goggles, so they call it snuba. And I'm sitting on the boat trying to bend my leg so I can get the fin on, which is hard to do because it hurts. And, it's not been bending like that for a little while, so I am, finally get it on, and I look over, and they're listing the rules of the excursion. Well, the last rule is if you had surgery in the last 6 months to a year, you have to sit out. And I was like, I'm not missing out on this opportunity. That's not cool. And I was like, I was so looking forward to this. This was like my big excursion by myself on the trip. And this gentleman appears out of nowhere next to me and says, "Don't worry, I got you." He goes, "Stick with me." And so I'm like, okay. So we go into the water and we slowly work our way to the bottom. And I pick up the dirt on the bottom and feel the dirt sifting through my hands and going in my mind thinking, I wonder when this dirt last saw the light of day and was dry. And who was walking on it and what was happening. And then we worked our way up and we take our fins off and dry off and we head back to shore, and I thanked him on the ship. And when we got off the boat, I wanted to thank him again, but I couldn't find him. So I go, all right, so we board transportation back to the ship. The ship, as soon as I get on board and make it to the room, I'm notified by my parents, security has been looking for me, and I'm like, I've been on excursion. I haven't been on the ship. What rule could I have broken on the ship? Why does security want me? So I call up security on the phone, and they say, we needed to know if you were on board the ship or not. And I said, I just got on board. Like, okay. So then we leave Maui, and I'm heading towards dinner, and my parents look at me and go, where's your crutches? And I said, oh my gosh, I left them in the room, but I was walking totally fine. Wow. I didn't need them after being in the water. Yep. So something connecting with the soil and the water reset my leg to pre-surgery, pre-injury condition. So it was like, wow, so we are like surprised. That's and beautiful. I'm in my mind thinking, how cool is it, I'm back to, my quote immortal self where I can't be hurt, I can't be sick. And so my mind is like, okay, I'm whole again, I'm not damaged anymore. So I have this huge mindset of yes. And we get back and I have an appointment with the orthopedic and I tell him what happened, and he goes, well, that's really cool, just do me a favor, don't fall on your leg because it's still kind of healing,
Do you
but
see what he just implanted?
oh, it gets better. So we go on it, and I'm sitting there and I'm working and I'm bending my leg. Everything's fine, it's life's back to normal. And I will say, when I started PT, the hardest challenge was learning to re-walk. Because my mind said I've done this for 30, 40 years. I've only not been walking for a month. It's going to be easy peasy to reset and restart, and nope. It was a long, hard 3 days a week
journey
of working through pain that you cannot imagine, because the leg, even though it's healed and was fused, and the doc was surprised at how fast it refused itself, that it was like, okay. One day, finally, my brain just clicked over and said, we can put pressure on, we're good to go. So we end up going on another another cruise, this time to the Mediterranean Sea, and then we were doing a transatlantic cruise back. And I mentioned that because of a fun tidbit for the end of this part of the story. But we're going through Italy, and we stop at Rome, and we depart from Rome, and we take a tour the second time we're in Rome when we're about to board for the transatlantic part of the cruise. And I'm walking through the town, and I get hit with all these emotions. Like, I go into the Pantheon, and I see all the statues of the saints and angels, and
wow,
it just makes me angry, because this was the house of the gods. This wasn't the house of angels or the house of saints. And the fact that the Vatican came in and destroyed all the statues of the gods just filled me with anger. And I was like, I had to walk out, because I was like, this is just so wrong. And going to different sites like the Circus Maximus, a social high point of Roman culture, gone, because they needed the stones to build a different church. And it's like the church just came in and tried to wipe out all of the Roman culture, and it just, I was so mad about that, and just
destruction and devastation. That's what just popped into my head, and that's very sad.
It is, because they're in essence creating genocide on a culture. Because that once you destroy these statues, or even if you bury them in a underground cavern underneath the Vatican in an archival, nobody sees it. So in essence, it's dead. So you have destroyed and erased an entire culture. And to me, that's just, nobody has the right to do that.
No, I agree with you.
So we end up leaving Rome and going to Pisa, and I got to see the Leaning Tower, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
And went to Monaco, and then we started our 3-city journey into Spain. Well, one of the cities, and unfortunately my memory doesn't equate which city it was. I think it's Malaga, because I don't have really any photos of that city, so I'm thinking this is the reason why. But it was raining, and we are coming off the ship. My parents and I were all excited to see what the culture and architecture and everything of the city is like. And I'm walking ahead of them, and I turn to enter the terminal to enter into the city, and the next thing I know, I'm on the ground.
Oh my gosh.
The leg that I had broken slipped out underneath me and slammed into the concrete on a metal strip that got wet.
Oh no.
And so I am in my head replaying the script of don't fall on your leg. So I'm in a panic of did I just re-break or fracture or crack or do something to my leg
Just fused.
that will cause me a problem and I won't be able to walk. And I don't have crutches with me or anything. And I'm like, and someone pointed out going, you're in Spain, you're not in America. So it's like I'm in a foreign country going to a hospital probably. This is not good. Or, can the ship help me? Well, is the ship even equipped to handle this? And so I go into fear and panic and everything. And my parents pick me up and we go back onto the ship. And our room has a balcony, so we open the door and I can hear the waves crashing. Well, my mom says she'll be right back. She's going to go get an ice pack. And I'm thinking, cool, because ice will help keep the swelling down. And hopefully that'll keep, anything from happening. Well, I'm laying on the sofa and I close my eyes and I'm hearing the water and then it goes quiet. And it's like you're in that moment of who closed the door? I didn't hear the door close to the balcony. Why can't I hear the water? And in fact, I don't hear anything. It's like all the sounds of the room are gone. So I'm like, am I still in the room? Where am I? And this booming voice comes out of nowhere and says, who are you? And I'm like, what do you mean? And then the booming voice repeats, who are you? And I go, well, I'm Michael. Who are you? And something in my mind clicks at this point and says, well, obviously it doesn't want to know my name. So who am I? And I go, well, I can do Reiki work and I can heal myself and I'm a metaphysical and all these, and I start listing a short list of what I can do. And then it says, what is your element? In another booming voice. And I'm like, my element? And it goes, what is your element? And I go, water. Because I realize it's asking me a question and I get the sense of, I'm needing healing, so it's probably asking me, what's my healing element? And then the booming voice goes, where are you? And in my head, I'm like, I'm on the ocean. I'm on water. And so I take and feel the essence of water start to surround me and fill my entire body and around my leg especially. And the voice disappears. And I can hear the ocean waves again, and I'm back in the room. And I get up, my leg is totally fine. And so my mom walks in then and says, I finally got ice. And I was like, I don't need it. It's not hurting anymore. And I had this weird, an experience, and I shared it with her, and she's like, okay. So at this point, I'm like just happy that nothing was damaged and I wasn't resetting and having to go through PT and all that again. And I realize now, looking at the scenario, the spiritual number is 3. The voice asked me 3 questions. And I was like, is it my higher self that snapped me out of fear? Or was it a guide that came in and just knew what questions to ask to bring me back out of fear and able to take care of everything? And so, yeah, and realizing that, we could have gone back to shore, but I still was a little hesitant because I was like, yeah, I did just heal it, but did I really heal it totally? So I was like, don't want to risk it. And my parents were like, yeah, we're not going to risk it. It's not worth you falling again. So we just skipped that port and went to the next port. But yeah, it really showed me how in that moment the fear overrode all of my natural instincts to just walk it off and everything. And so it was like completely shut me out. And then, so get back, and after that, we decide, well, not going to do any cruises for a little bit because work was picking up, but I had just come off of this weekend adventure the following year in October where I had gotten emotionally raw and got in touch with some core issues that I needed to work on. And so I was supposed to go to a ceremony on Thursday when I came back from the weekend to kind of be like initiated fully into a community, but I ended up missing that because I was flying out to France that day. And so when we get to France, we meet up with everybody that gets together, and we're all meeting each other and getting ready to go. And we find out after a couple of days in France near the grotto of Mary Magdalene, we go and we're at the Rennes-le-Chateau, at the foot of it. And everybody's probably familiar with Rennes-le-Chateau.
I'm not, actually.
It's one of the most sacred spots in Templar faith, and it's like the start of the Saint Graal.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like root chakra energy. And we're there, and there's supposed to be hidden secrets there. And my roommate and I are like really big in the Templars, and we're like, man, we're right here. So we decide one night when it's dark, we're going to go check out the town. So we start going up the winding road that goes up the face of the hill or little mountain, and there's brush on both sides. And something is moving with us. We start to move faster, the rustling gets faster. I start to feel inside of me, like I call it spidey sense. It's warnings are going up and starting to be on edge and going, something's not right. We literally are, if you turn a corner, you can see the entrance to the city. And I go to my friend and I said, we got to turn back. He's like, it's right here. I was like, you don't understand. Something's following us. I don't feel right. Something's off. We need to turn back. And he trusts my energy senses. And so he's like, okay. So we turn and we go back down and go look at some other stuff and call it a night. Well, the next night or two, we decide, well, we'll try again. Just see what happens. So we, again, start going up the facade. And we get halfway up, and I turn and I look at the sacred mountains behind us, and they're lit up, white light all around them. And I'm like, is that a city? Is that a base? Is, something alien happening over there? What is causing this light? Well, off to the left of the light, coming down the mountain facade through the trees, I can only explain by saying, if you've seen the 13th Warrior, the fireworm, where it looks like fire literally worming its way towards you.
Okay.
There was a path of fire coming down the trees, but the trees weren't catching fire. And I'm like, he sees it, and I look at him and I say, I think we need to hurry up, because I don't want to meet up with who's able to walk through trees with fire and not catch anything on fire. And the fact they're walking through trees also has me concerned. What is coming? And he goes, all right, yeah, you're right. So we go up. Meanwhile, the rustling of the guardians, as I call them, isn't happening. So I'm like, okay, we're cleared to enter. I get no bad feelings. And when we're 3/4 up, the fireworm is still making progress, but it's moving slowly down. And so I'm like, okay. So we get to the stone that says Rennes Chateau at the entrance. And of course, we stop to take our touristy pictures.
Yeah.
And, we're like, we're in the city. Fireworm's not gonna, it's way over there. It's on the other side of a valley. We got time. And we go and we walk to the back of the town where the Tour Magdala is to the right, and to the left is just open air. And we're looking again, and all of the lighting is still there. And I'm still wondering, what is this light? Well, we turn and we take some photos at the Tour Magdala to show we were there at night, just for ourselves. And we turn, and as we're going behind it, we look down, and there's soft yellow lights, and I go, that's a town. So what are these white lights? Never figured out what the white lights were.
How interesting.
And so we continue around the corner. My friend, and who's my roommate, goes, I just heard something. I go, I didn't hear anything. He goes, well, I'm going to go check it out. I go, okay. So he goes off. I take 3 steps, look up. This lady in white floats across, looks at me, and disappears into the tour. Just as she disappears, this voice comes over my shoulder, says, there was nothing there. It was nothing. And I go, did you just see? He goes, see what? It's like, never mind. And so my mind just was like, nah, I didn't see what I thought I saw. Mm-hmm. So we take a few steps and we look towards the front, and there's these bushes. And in the bushes is these 2 red dots, like this far apart, like literally looking like eyes, looking at us. And I go and I look at him and I go, you see that, right? He goes, yeah. And the closest thing I could describe to it today is the Never-Ending Story, when the wolf is in the cave and the nothing.
I remember that.
It comes charging out. That's what I feel like is about to happen.
Oh, that's a creepy feeling.
And we both look at each other and we go, hey, there's a path to the right. Let's take this path. Well, that little short jaunt that we took put us right smack dab at the entrance of the city. And we're like, that's really strange, because there's still a lot of path left. I want, it's like, didn't have any urge to go check out what was down there with those red dots or eyes. And we're like, okay. So we go back and we go down. We go back to the room, call it a night. And the next morning, we go to Pouvert. It's this troubadour castle And as we're walking in, it's like really cool, to see this castle and how they preserve the grounds and everything. Well, there's this big signage on the left that talks about some of the legends of Puvert. One legend catches my attention very clearly, and it's a legend of a lady in white. And it said, if you see a lady in white, she has marked you for death. And so I go into an internal panic and going, oh my God, I saw a lady in white last night. I think I'm marked for death. I must be. She's white.
There's a warning sign right here.
What do I do now? And I'm like, my first instinct is, well, I can't tell anybody, because if I tell somebody I'm marked for death, they're going to try and intervene and get hurt. And I couldn't live with myself if somebody got hurt trying to save me from something that was either divinely supposed to happen or inadvertently was going to happen. I couldn't have that on my chest or in my soul memory. So I decided at this point, I'm not going to tell anybody. And I'll just hope in the fact that not talking about it will kind of make peace with it. But if they're going to come after me, let them come after me, but nobody else. So I didn't want anybody else in harm's way trying to be heroic. And so we then, a few days later, we go to Montsegur, which is the last holdout of the Knights Templar, where the Friday the 13th massacre had a major effect, which is where we got Friday the 13th, the omen about it. Well, we're standing at the top of the ruins, and I'm looking 360 around everywhere, having a great time. And we come walking down the path, going back to the cars, and my leg slips out from underneath me, and I fall. And I'm sitting on my bottom, and my two friends that were leading the tour come rushing over, and they're like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? What do we need to do for you now? And my reaction is, I started laughing. I'm like, it's okay. I'm fine. No worries. Let me just get up and, we'll just walk on, There's no issues.
Yeah.
So I then go and we get to the car and we're driving and everything's fine. And I'm realizing in current times now how far I've grown from falling in Spain a couple years before, going into fear panic, to now in France going, no big deal. Nothing. Doesn't faze me at all. No fear at all about hurting my leg or anything. And so I'm like, wow, cool to see how much I grew in 2 years and was able to not engage in the fear the second time.
Right.
So we get home, and then 6 years later, my friend who led the tour calls me up, and she's talking about going through something. And I said, well, since I have you on the phone, there's something I need to tell you. And she goes, what? I go, remember when we were in France? And she goes, yeah. I said, I saw a lady in white. And the next day I saw at the castle the omen about what it means. And she goes, have you been carrying that for 6 years?
Wow.
I said, yeah. I haven't told a soul until now. And she goes, oh my God, you should have told me. I could have talked you out of what it was or helped you understand what was going on. And I explained to her why I didn't share, and she goes, well, that's admirable, but you've been living with this cloud and fear for 6 years. And I said, yeah, I know. And she's like, wow. Well, I'm glad you told me now. And so now I kind of come forward and talk about it more. But yeah, it's amazing how a little bit of fear can either grow into a huge thing until you finally decide, that's enough, or you can learn from the first time and be like, it's nothing. I'm all right. No big deal. So, yeah, it's amazing being, as spiritually advanced as we are. Even my mom, laughingly, when I was telling her the story, goes, how could you believe for 6 years you were marked for death, knowing what you know and how the universe works? And I was like, I was in an emotion. And so, yeah, the emotions can cloud our judgments. And so I'm starting to share now my paranormal experiences with the impacts so that people can understand just having the experience is cool, but there is a second part to it that normally doesn't get talked about, and I think people would gain some awareness from in knowing that if you had this experience, so did somebody else. So it's going to be okay. They're okay. Or,
exactly.
If you get caught up in it and just don't know what to do, maybe see this and go, oh, well, maybe what he, went through is similar to what I went through, so I'll be okay. And one of the things I started to think about too was when I was looking at the lady in white, the quick glance, I can't even say with 100% certainty she was looking at me. She might have been a residual spirit that was reading a book and somebody called her name, so she looked to see who was calling her name and then went back to reading her book and went, on her with her day. And I'm assuming she's looking at me, and she might have been looking past me. And I was never marked for death from day one. So it's interesting when you can sit there and look at it with a level clarity and a balance and going, okay, what happened? What can I recall? What could this mean? What are possible outcomes here? And then work through it.
Exactly. And it's interesting because, from going from something, because it was written, it was like a warning right there. You saw the spirit, and it was written, and you had a choice to operate in fear and let it eat you up, or we can manifest, or depending on what beast we want to feed, right? And that's
Right.
why it's so important, no matter what we may see or what is written, or what let's say somebody is going through something like a spiritual attack or something like that. Really what it is we as spiritual beings, we're all divine beings, right? In this material realm, we all have the authority and the power to determine whether we want to feed into that and let that affect us and operate in fear or not. Because fear can be very paralyzing. And if you choose not to, then you can overcome it, and it helps you grow and evolve as an individual, which is what happened to you.
Exactly. And you mentioning the feeding, which beast reminded me and triggered in me the Native American proverb of you have a good wolf and a bad wolf that's, it's going to do what it's going to do. Both are going to do what they're going to do. Are you going to put your love and everything into the good wolf? Or are you going to put your fear into the bad wolf? which one are you going to feed? That's the one that's going to survive.
Right. And so I think that right now, many people have been feeding into the fear-based wolf, and it's time to start feeding into the love.
Right. And it's time as well for people to start to realize everybody goes into a mode of saying, okay, I have this problem. Let me go see this person for this answer or this person for that answer. And they have forgotten the answer is within.
Mm-hmm.
So don't need to go
Oh
to
my God.
anybody else to heal.
This is
It can
crazy.
heal within.
I had
And-
this download yesterday, Michael. I almost did a PSA on it. I didn't. Oh my gosh. Go on.
Oh no, we were talking about it on my
Whoa.
show on Wednesday night. Of people will spend like thousands of dollars going to learn techniques and going to learn, from mediums. And don't get me wrong, I'm not discounting their work. And like my guest was saying, I have friends that do the work and do all these readings and stuff, and there is benefit to it, but we can't make them into gurus or the only source. We have to remember our own abilities and to remember to go within and find our inner answer, because
That's
a
right.
lot of times you may be feeling sadness over something and you're spending money to reach out to hear from someone when the person is sending you signs, sending you feelings, thoughts, but because you're feeling it needs to come from somebody else, you're discounting it. And so the person's not able to make that connection, even though that's what you're wanting.
This is so interesting, because yesterday I was getting ready and I had a massive download from Source, and it was like, it's one thing to get guidance, right? Guidance from people, but what's very important is part of that guidance is because some people aren't necessarily as evolved, they don't understand that yet. They need a little bit of guidance, but what part of that guidance needs to be is to be taught what to do, to go inward, because everything is within us, and that's about whether it's learning about how powerful you are as a being able to heal yourself, your prayer, your meditation, connecting to the divine, your higher self, your guides. So that's what I feel like. There's a difference between different healers or practitioners. Like the ones that I encountered in my previous old cycles, it was like they fed off of fear, right? They used that and they would manipulate, charge, all of that, and they would withhold information that they knew, so that way I would spend so much money, when really what God had to do for me was isolate me, remove me from everything, strip me, so that way I could realize what was truly inside of me and get divine guidance. So it's like I took other tools I had, and then I took my new tools and incorporated it, and then now that's how I feel like really good healers or guides or intuitives, whatever, they will give the knowledge that they have, and then they'll give the people the tools and knowledge and resources that they need. Ryan always says that saying, my son, he's like, you can give somebody a fish and they'll eat for a day, or you could teach them how to fish and then they'll eat for life. Right. So let's say that they are not aware. A little bit of guidance is good, but not as a crutch. I feel like people will go and they'll use it rather than developing their own abilities that they really do have within them, because they do.
Exactly. And one
I'm
of
so
the
passionate about it.
one of the ancient
you got
sayings that I believe it was the Greeks that came out with, Herodotus, I think, even said it was the first rule to medicine and everything is physician, heal thyself. And when you think about it, he's not saying go to a physician to heal. He's saying you have to heal yourself
You are the
in
physician.
order to heal somebody else.
That too, absolutely.
And society, unfortunately, now teaches if you do anything for yourself, you're being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't heal yourself. You have to go to somebody else. And so that is one of the things we have to deprogram, and why it's important to understand that, you know, in ancient times, when you're thinking about, you know, everything that's going on, all the stuff they're discovering, everything that they're going through, why would they make that statement, heal thyself? Because if we're supposed to go to somebody else to heal, they would say, you know, they worded it in a different way, but the way they worded it is so precise, and it's a metaphysical principle too of, you know, you got to work on yourself.
Absolutely.
Because if I'm not healing pain in myself and I'm working on somebody else,
Absolutely.
I could, through inference, be putting pain into the person I'm working on.
That's a transfer of energy. Yeah.
So that's where it's even more important to do your own work and do your own research, because when you go to help somebody else, what's the one reason they're coming to you is because you had the experience, you went through it, so you can relate, so you understand. But if you're not doing your shadow work and you're not doing all your work to heal yourself, then people aren't going to be able to relate to you, because they're going to see you still going through it and be like, why should I trust you?
Exactly.
You can't even heal yourself. Why would I go to you for anything?
Yeah. And I feel like that's a big thing is individually, we absolutely, that is so huge, so important. We have to do the inner work. We have to heal ourselves. And there are people out there that are going to need guidance for people who maybe are on a different timeline. But it's making sure that the people you go to have done the work, they have the knowledge, and they're willing to share it. So you're not going round and round on this hamster wheel of not moving forward. We want that positive progression of healing. But yeah, that inner work, because this is kind of interesting. I had somebody come forward to me. Actually, I've had a couple people say this to me, that my church is everywhere I go. My church is in my home. You're in my home. You saw where I pray. Everywhere, right?
Right.
And I have gone into solitude and worked with the Most High, with Source, my guardian angel, my guides, and was in solitude for a very long time doing a ton of healing work. Every individual that I had encountered prior to that, and most people can relate to this, you know, there was betrayal, there was, you know, out of greed or operating out of fear and feeding off that and giving false information or trying to stagnate. And so I was removed from that and went inward, and I had to learn from the divine professor. It was like, this is what you're going to know, this is what you're going to do, and you're going to connect directly in here. It all comes from within. You don't need anything else. And it saved my life. And I've had people now come to me and be like, go see this person at the church and go see this healing person. I don't think you understand. Like, I don't let anybody touch me. I don't let anybody transfer energy on me. But it's still people who can see the shift. These are the messages I got. People who can see the shift and how it's not it's not operating inside the church, right? They want the middleman. We're teaching people we don't need a middleman. It's within us. So I've had people come in, try to knock me off that connection. And that's where I'm always like 10 toes down. Stand firm in knowing that God flows through us, or whatever you want to call him, source, the universe, doesn't matter, right? It's within us. We have that ability within us. We just need to have the right knowledge from the right individuals. I feel like, if that's making sense. Is that making sense,
does.
Michael?
It is, and one of the things that I would add to that is you clicked in my head a memory that I had where I had bruised my shoulder, and we had a massage therapist that we would call up that we've used for years, and he came over to my house and went to work on my shoulder, and he stopped before really doing anything, and I was like, what's going on? And he goes, they won't let me work on you. And I go, what?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I go, all right, guys, he's here to fix my shoulder. Let him fix the shoulder. And that's that. And then he was able to work on my shoulder. But even though we have used him for years, it was kind of funny to me that they would not allow him in that moment
to touch you,
to work on me without knowing
that's
something.
What it is. Yeah, exactly. And we have to give that permission. We have to, with our guides, with our team, whatever people want to be like, sure, I don't give that permission.
Well, and it also goes to, even though you know someone for years, doesn't mean they always are in the right space, so you're always at choice.
And touch, exactly, that discernment, or, that's right.
Yeah, so don't ever just blindly go, because I go to this person all the time, they're going to be able to fix this or that and have my best interest at heart. That is huge. Because everybody has off days.
Okay, well, and let's say this too. Let's say this person is not maybe doing as much intense healing work or shadow work, and you have been, or you're timeline jumping, and you're ascending quicker, and then this person that you've known forever is still maybe a bit stagnant or has work to do, but you've ascended. So maybe that's not the right fit for you at that time or anymore. Right? Yeah. So,
exactly.
Yeah, and that's okay, because we want to constantly be evolving. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So do you want to jump to that other topic you were talking about, or do you want to stay on this one?
Which one?
The handlers.
I would like for you, I would love for you to talk about that and explain what it is. Because what you said to me actually was very interesting about what they do if people speak.
So, switching gears a little bit, talking about, how can I put it, covert programs that people may be involved in. Well, they have people around them that they don't necessarily know about, and they're called handlers. And so you may hear people talking about how, during doing this work in this program, my handler allowed me to do this, or this. So the job of the handler is to keep the person that they're handling on project, focused on their mission, and completing their mission. Everything else is secondary. So what that means is, if, say for example, I was in a program about traveling to another country to do something, and I was meeting up with someone to share the information with them. If I'm not supposed to share that information, that person won't show up. And they may not show up because either they were put into an accident and are in the hospital, unable to attend, or unfortunately the other option is they were taken out of the picture, meaning they were taken out of life.
To protect.
And all of this is done by the handler to protect the mission, because the mission comes first. So they're as a handler, they don't care about what emotional ties you have to anything. They don't care what you are doing or where you're at. They only care about, are you sticking to the mission parameters? Are you staying focused? And if you're wavering and you continue to try to speak out about something you're not supposed to speak about, they can take and abduct you, put you through the training scenarios again where they torture and schism and break you, and they can beat you to almost being in a hospital, and saying the next day, coming and saying, okay, you're ready for mission, and if you break off of your mission, it could be worse next time. So they fill you with fear to control you. So when people are talking about, some people in programs know their handlers, some don't. The real job of the handler is to stay hidden. It's very rare that people actually know who their handlers are. And the scary thing that I have come across in experiences with talking with people is sometimes their handler is a family member, or someone in their family, someone they may have partnered with and started a life from, because that person was planted to put you in a position to do what they wanted you to do and to keep you there and in control. So handlers, their job literally is to handle you.
Okay, I have a question. So, if someone has not necessarily seen their handler physically, how does this come about? The handler knows about the person initially because of a program, right? That's how it starts.
They're assigned from the beginning of the program, and so they're always watching.
How are they doing that?
They can be living next door to you, watching what you're doing. They could be across the street. They could be in a building that you work in. And so they place themselves in spots where they can watch you, but you won't necessarily notice them watching you. So if you think about, if I hate to say this because, I'm a firm believer, in relationships and meeting, people randomly. But sometimes you need to be aware that someone you're meeting randomly may not be so random. They may be meeting you for a reason.
Of course.
And so you gotta watch, and if your intuition says, wow, this person seems to know everything about me without knowing me, and you're starting to get a creepy vibe, or even a vibe of this is beyond coincidental, then that could be someone who's being put in play to be your handler.
Can handlers have romantic feelings for people that they are not supposed to? Like, say they're there to be the handler, but from afar. Because I've heard about this before. Could they end up having feelings for the person they're supposed to be handling, but stay away? Or does that happen as well? Besides, I know family relationships, that can happen as well.
I haven't heard of anybody saying that their handler saved their lives and prevented them from going through anything. But I have heard of people saying, I met somebody, we got along, felt this deep connection, had a family, had kids, and now realize this was all done on intention. There was no real emotion to it. So they can act emotional to get your attention if that's their mission. So in the programs, we're programmed to have limited emotions. Like, if something sad happens to me, for example, I can say I feel sad, but I don't necessarily always show sad. And it's confusing because it's like deep inside I feel it, but I don't know how to show it. Or if I'm angry about something, most of my emotions will look the same because I don't know how to express, because doing certain things I learned or was taught, okay, so this emotion leads to this leads to this leads to this, so if I'm programmed to do this, these don't count. So, for example, if I'm, say, going in to spy on someone, I'm not going to have any emotional, like joy, happiness, love, any of that. I will only strictly be there watching them doing what they're doing and gathering information. It's almost like if you wanted to, like an example would be, look at the Vulcans in Star Trek. They're like emotionless. They're always stoic. That's what a lot of the people in the programs are trained to do. And slowly we learn to show expressions, but we're very limited on what we can do, because if we go too far, the handlers will step in. And there's factions in the programs that say, like, you can retire and quit the programs. And then there are others that say once you're in, you're always in. So it's hard to know what is actually truthfully happening, because the big problem with being in covert programs, and I know this is going to sound strange to everyone and sound science fiction. I almost said science fiction-y. But it does happen, is when our mission is complete, they wipe our memories. So we have no idea what mission we did. And they have the technology to take and put our consciousness in a clone body or a machine, and that machine generates somebody, and so it can go and exist somewhere and experience 20 years of living, and when it's done, it gets shut down. They shut it down or kill it. The consciousness returns to where you are, and for you, 5 minutes has passed.
Wow.
And they can make it to where they have the technology of you can go and have a lifetime, and then in the blink of an eye here, not even realize you just had a lifetime.
How common is this?
Well, I think it's more common than we're led to believe. What's uncommon is people getting their memories back of what they did and what they were a part of, what programs they were in. That's the rare part, because they're very good at erasing memory to the point to where I could watch a movie on, say, like Planet Mars and have no memory that I've ever been to Mars, and nothing in that movie will trigger it. However, and that's the mass. Like, pretty much everybody probably is in programs and doesn't realize it. Majority of the people. But there are some people who I had the theory of, because they're more aware of different connections that they have with different things. Some call them hybrids. Some call them having starbeam DNA in them, or activated more strands maybe than the normal person has, so their consciousness is aware of more. When that person watches a movie on Mars, they'll look at it and they'll go, that ship looks familiar.
Yeah.
That rock formation on the planet looks really familiar, even though this is the first movie of Mars. It's like, how can you have familiarity with it? That's the mind wipe not fully working, to where you're able to go, wait a minute, this is familiar. There's something about this, and I remember that, seeing that, but I've never looked at anything about this subject before. This is impossible. So that's the first step of the awareness, is you're going to start to think, I'm just making this up. The second step of it is, no, I remember that, and you talk to somebody else, a friend, and your friend is like, I remember that too. Well, two people can't have memory of something that they've never seen.
Yeah.
And explain it, that just scientifically doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So now people start becoming aware that something is happening that we're not aware of. And so more and more people hear this, they get triggered. It's the expression we use. And it means your awareness has shifted to where you're seeing something and hearing something, and it's recalling something in yourself. It can be a feeling, it can be a vision, it can be a dream, but something is going to happen to where you're going to be like, hey, this person talked about this, now I'm remembering this, and my memory is not the same as theirs, but the location is the same. That's when that's your memory versus you're just taking on somebody else's memory. And that's one of the things that, when you're dealing with the programs and people in the programs, is you got to make sure what you're hearing is not an exact word for word copy of somebody else. Because a lot of people will start to claim stuff that's not really theirs, and then you look like, if you're going, oh yeah, I've had this, and everyone's like, well, the person who triggered your memory didn't have it, so what makes you think you have it? And now you start to wonder, oh, I messed up. Was I not a part of it? And so
everyone's going to have their own experiences. right?
Right. And what I'm more referring to is like the unfortunacy of we have like false valor, where people claim to have military service when they don't. And it's because there's certain stigmas or certain things that are, people will go, oh, you're a serviceman, let us do this for you, or, we appreciate what you're doing, so, we want to thank you by doing this. Well, other people see that and are like, well, I want that, but I'm not going to serve. I'll just tell people I did that. And so they're tarnishing
Right.
and creating what we call now disinformation. And it's unfortunate, but that's the playbook of the world we live in now. And so it's designed to discredit. So when there's a topic that comes out that they don't want you to hear, notice how if like, say 3 or 4 people are talking about something, and they start to notice a few, they're getting a lot more views of stuff online. Well, all of a sudden you have 50 people now talking about saying, oh, I'm this, I went through this or that.
Yeah.
Maybe 3/4 of those people are just trying to discredit, so nobody pays attention to it and says, well, this person didn't really do it, he's making it up off of this person's story, so is all of this just made up? And so it's sense. A massive disinformation program that they put into play. So you have to be careful when you're talking to and listening to people. And so that's why if you watch, like when I talk about the programs, I will say this is my belief or my memory versus I have been told this. So I won't ever take credit for somebody else's experience.
Exactly. I feel like that's what I like about like your shows or when we talk or like the podcasts that I'm doing. It's all of our personal experiences and of what we've lived through, whether it's a program that you could like you're recalling pieces of or what you've experienced or just other people's journeys. I think that because no that's what I was getting at too. Like no one's journey is identical. Could be similar, but it's not going to be identical.
Right. Do we have time for another thing?
What time is it? We have a little bit of time.
So one thing I'd like to share that talking about programming is when we look at the Matrix movies, we were taught that the character Neo, Keanu Reeves, was the one. He was the one that's going to set everybody free. He's the one who's going to bring down the machines and free mankind. And I was looking at the films, and the first 3, you could argue that's exactly what's portrayed. But there's also something else portrayed that people don't see is who freed Neo. Was Morpheus and his crew, who was freed by other people. So people have been freeing people all along. They didn't need Neo to free them. And in the movies, the next 2 movies, Neo was only able to do what he was doing because of everybody else doing what they were doing. And so it wasn't a one saving everyone. Everyone was saving everyone.
Exactly.
And so I feel like the 4th movie in the trilogy, not counting Animatrix and the other stuff, Neo realized, I think, is the premise that people were putting too much faith on him and not themselves, so he reinserted himself to rewrite the program, and all of a sudden, who becomes the one? Trinity. Well, Trinity and Neo at the end of the movie stand together as the one. So the one became two. But again, how were these two able to do what they were doing? A group of people found them and helped them reestablish that, yeah, they're in a simulation. This didn't work. And the pills didn't work. He tried to erase his memory with the pills, and it wouldn't work. It just kept bleeding through. He knew. And so there's even now, I heard, a 5th movie coming out.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
But what's interesting is looking at, all these movies are great for exposing, what's hidden about us, but we're still being told what we're supposed to be seeing, and everybody's mind, it's like, I think the term is pareidoia, where somebody says in this movie, you see this person as the one. So everybody who watches the movie will see that person as the one.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't look at the whole.
This is interesting. Now we're going back. So we were talking about how we don't need anything outside of us. It's within us, but that's where we were talking. We need the individuals who are on that timeline or able to truly assist or have done the work or can help you ascend, right? It's to give you the tips, the tools, knowledge, and resources. So it wasn't just that Neo was the one, even though he had that inside of him, he also had assistance from other individuals to
Right.
help guide, and they all worked with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he went to go see the Oracle. Yeah. That part just stuck out in my head. I mean,
yeah, there is no spoon, and the kid could bend the spoons, but Neo couldn't.
yeah, it's really a team effort. But we have everything we need within every single one of us too.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because when you look at the characters, like in the second movie, the kid that is there when the ship returns, and they're like, Neo, can I carry your bags? Neo, can we take you, this for you? And everybody puts his altar at the doorstep of his door. It's like, yeah, everybody's treating him like the guru. He's not the guru.
I should have sent that to you.
It's like
the false.
Neo, Morpheus, Trinity, Dozer, Tank, all of them were doing exactly what they
were called to do.
Well, called to do, and also what they were meant to do and what they were able to do. And
right.
When it came time to defend in the third movie the civilization, they were like, the captains were there and the military faction was like, we're outnumbered. We need civilians. Who will answer the call, to help? It wasn't individuals that said, oh, well, I served on the ship, so I'll do it. Mm-hmm. It was people who just were like, I had the will to live. I want to fight for it. I'm going to fight for it.
Yeah.
And they ended up turning the tide. And it wasn't, in reality, when you look at it, the machines think like machines are programmed to think. So 1 for 1. But the human thinks in the terms of the whole. So as 1 defeated 1, now you had 2 fighting 1. Or 3 fighting 1. Because they start to help each other. Mm-hmm. So they would never have won anyway. Because humankind, in its most basic sense, survival, will unite as one and overthrow whatever is coming against them to destroy them. And so that's the thing too that I look at in the movie is it's like the machines are starting to falter. There's not as many coming in anymore, and it looks like the Sentinels, may be running out when Neo makes the deal and they start to collapse. It's like, I look at it and going, it kind of looks like mankind was, doing pretty good on its own. Didn't really need the one like they thought, but still everybody focuses on, oh, he did this, so he saved us. And it's interesting how at the end, everybody that's sitting there as they're celebrating the fact that they won, they all call out, Neo saved us. And it's not, we saved us. And so it's like a way of them saying, yeah, look, even though, we know you're seeing this, we still want you to be programmed to think of the one.
Yeah, it's programming. It's programming. People will wake up all in their own time. For sure. I have a question about, though, real quick before I forget. The programs. Is there positive and I guess everything is really, it's not positive or negative or anything, but like there's programs for people that are fighting for the light. Is there programs that are fighting for the opposite team that have handlers as well?
So everybody in the programs has handlers, the light side and the dark side.
Okay.
Right now, the ones that are primarily operating are the dark factions, and the reason they're considered the dark faction is they're being utilized to claim territory, claim technology, claim stuff that's not supposed to be, and then we're wiped, and their hands are kept clean. And so we instigate wars, we instigate going and taking over cultures, wiping out cultures potentially. And so there's a lot of bad that's been done. But the light side is starting now to activate theirs, and they're going in and they're helping people. And so one of the factions that's being done, for example, of the light side is hybrids are disappearing and they're being programmed to go and do whatever the dark side wants them to do. That's taking them. And they can be taken off-world, they can be taken from this world. And that's why there's so many potentially people missing from this world, is the potential of, were they hybrids and they were kidnapped to be programmed to become tools for dark element forces out there. And the light side has finally risen up and said, mankind has asked for help. We're now going to help them. And we also have to help ourselves. And so factions are losing programmees to the light side. They can go in, for example, if I was in a dark program, a light race can come in, say like a light faction of the Palladians or Arcturians or Syrians or Lyrans could team up, capture me, pull me out, and say, okay, we want you to work for us now. And they won't, and they'll ask permission, can we use you to do this? And we'll help sever all your connections so the dark side can't pull you out again.
And when you say dark side, not to interrupt, that would be, are you talking about reptilian, draconian, or is that a dark side?
Well, it's hard to put it on a certain one because there are rogue elements of Pleiadians, for example, who could be working for the dark side.
Right, so we don't want to label.
So it's balanced. They work for both. So each star race technically has both. But when we refer to and we talk about the dark elements, it is more of the Alpha Draconian reptilians and the Greys that are their little minions who go and do the dirty work. And the Nordics have some dark element rogue agencies, and so each are policing their own. And so there are federations, there are councils out there that are starting to take notice and saying, you know, we've reached a certain point, we are on this path, you know, enough people have asked for help that they're coming to our aid. And so when we talk about coming to our aid, we don't mean they're going to show a craft over our sky, beam something into the water, and instantly make everything pure and clean. That's not going to happen. But what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll be like, so you guys are in a system where your medicine is designed to keep you ill because medicine has side effects. And what do you do with the side effect? You take another pill. Mm-hmm. And so you end up in a round circle of a multitude of pills when really you may not have needed that. Mm-hmm. And so they're coming in and they're bringing new healing techniques. That's why all of a sudden you're starting to see all these different healing techniques coming out, and a lot of them are labeling them quantum to really honestly just kind of set themselves apart from other conventional or non-conventional medicines. And when I talk to a lot of the people who do the quantum healing techniques, they're not saying that they're going into a quantum level and redesigning this or that. What they're really saying is they're teaching you to go within yourself to heal yourself. And so it's a return to self. Right. And the quantum entanglements and anything really quantum, the quantum reality that they're dealing with is within you. And so if I'm, say, 3 hours away and you have something going on and you're like, oh man, you think, you know, I need help because you and I are friends and with that we, you know, talk about stuff and everything, I might pick up on, hey, something's going on. And it's not meaning, you know, I picked up a telepathic signal and, you know, we have telepathy now. You know, we could, I don't know. And I'm not going to state out for a record we do or don't. Yeah. But the theory is it's either telepathy or a quantum fragment came through and it pinged on me, pinged on maybe some other people who you trust and have rapport with, who you would ask help from in that situation. And so, and you know, we're the ones that will hear it and go, oh, I need to do something. Yeah. And we'll stop and go, hey, you know, are you okay? Something just gave me the feeling I needed to talk to you. That's what they're meaning by the quantum is It's from within. And that's, again, is, you know, the important thing of where we're going and everyone talking about the ascension of the masses. the ascension of the masses will happen, but it's because everyone has done it on an individual
level
to start.
Yeah.
You have to start on yourself before
Right.
you can figure out how to do it with everybody.
Right. Absolutely, Michael. This has been awesome. Can we do this again?
Absolutely.
Okay. I would love that. Thank you. Yeah. All right. I guess we will end it here for today, but we will do this again. And I'm so grateful. I appreciate love you.
I appreciate love you.
So, guys, thank you so much for joining me and Michael for our first in-person podcast. We love and appreciate love you. We're grateful. Michael, do you have anything that you would like to, any tips, tools, advice you want to leave with anyone before we go?
I would say a tool is trust your intuition. If you're getting a feeling that something you're doing or somebody you're around is not like a good feeling, there may be a reason for that, so step back and look. I'm not necessarily saying, if you have a bad feeling about somebody one day, dump them and ditch them and disappear. No,
Like,
I mean, just look at the situation and just see what is going on and what role you're partaking in it, and if it's something you're comfortable with. And if you're not, there's no problem saying no. I can't do that, I won't do that. And if the person really is meant to be around, they're going to say, okay, thank you for being honest, thank you for being authentic, and I'll do this, or, maybe you're right, we shouldn't do this, and they may back out too. But own your space, own who you are, because that is the one thing nobody can take from any of us.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. It's awesome. All right, guys, please check out his shows. Can you share your shows with people so they can watch you?
Sure. I have Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock Central is The Energy That Surrounds Us. And Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock Central is Riding Through the Unknown. Twice a month on Thursday afternoons is Paranormal Verses. And now I can be seen Thursday nights on the Beast System with Emily Men's House. And
That's awesome.
each of those shows are either on YouTube or Rumble, so if you look up the show names, you should be able to find them, or they'll be listed on my Facebook page. So you can always find them, and you can always find me.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Michael. All right, guys. We will see you next time. Sending you so much love, and we pray that you're always surrounded by the Most High God's love, protection, and blessings. Bye, guys. Mwah.